There were a lot of questions after the season, after losing in the playoffs against the Bengals in that blizzard of a storm in Buffalo, that Josh Allen wasn't giving Stefon Diggs the ball enough. That Stefon Diggs was crying that he didn't see the ball enough, even though he saw the ball 15 times. I believe Stefon Diggs is one of the more talented wide receivers in the league. I'm not a big fan of his. I wasn't a big fan of his in Minnesota. When he was traded for arguably the best wide receiver in all of football, nobody knew that was going to happen in Jefferson. It just fell right for Minnesota. They got the best player in that draft. There has to be a story behind this. And it has nothing to do with Stephen A. Smith. It has nothing to do with anything that's going on with Buffalo in the offseason, losing so many players to free agency. And everybody says, what do you mean so many? They lost pieces. They didn't lose major pieces. They lost Edmonds. He goes to the Chicago Bears. And they're not as good as they were last year. They lose their defensive coordinator in Leslie Frazier. This defense, which everybody says is going to be better than it was last year because of Von Miller and because of some of the players that they were missing in the second half of the season, they believe that this team is still the number one team in the AFC East. But when you look at Miami and the approved team that they added a new defensive coordinator, one of the better defensive coordinators in football. They added Ramsey, who I'm not a big fan of either, but he's still one of the top 5 corners in all of football. And the weapons that they have, Tyreek Hill, Waddle, and if Tua could actually stay healthy this year, as we know, White isn't. He gets hurt this weekend. The Miami Dolphins are going to be a very good team. And then there's the New England Patriots. And say what you want, they only got better defensively this offseason. This is a very good defense. This is a defense that was ranked number 8 in all of football in almost every single category. Bill Belichick is one of the best defensive minds in football. You bring back O'Brien, a competent offensive coordinator. We don't have Judge and Mr. Scientist calling plays on the sideline anymore. No, that's not going to happen. You actually have a competent guy that understands how to run an offense. And Mac Jones, who everybody was taking shots last year about because he had an off year, and that usually happens in a sophomore year. He had a very good rookie season. His second year wasn't so good. This is his junior year. And he has a chance to prove himself in a division that's so competitive, probably the most competitive division in football. And then there's the New York Jets, and I don't really have to get into that yet. And we will get into Hard Knocks yesterday a little bit later in the show as well. The additions that they made, the Dalvin Cooks, and obviously the Aaron Rodgers. The Jets are much better than they were, a lot better than they were last year. So you look at Buffalo, Buffalo didn't really have that many additions to this team. They lost a significant amount, and losing your defensive coordinator from last year shows you that this team is not moving forward. It could be moving backwards. Josh Allen isn't the same quarterback he was when Dable was there. And you can see the difference in his game in the second half of the season. He was not healthy, as we saw last year, as Huff hit him against the Jets. And he wasn't the same player. He hurt his arm. His elbow wasn't the same. You saw what happened when he played Minnesota. And again, I just think that Josh Allen needs to figure it out himself. Now, obviously, what Dable did for Daniel Jones shows you that he is a quarterback whisperer. He understands how to help quarterbacks develop their skills if they're missing something. And the same thing with Josh Allen. When he came into the league, his throwing motion was completely different until Dable helped him change it. So you look at the tension of this team. When you see tension in the locker room from 2 of your best players, that's not a good sign going into the season. And I don't care what Stefon Diggs says, because we saw what he did over there in Minnesota, practically pushing his way out of there because he didn't want to be there, because Thielen was seeing the ball more than he was. Gabe Davis didn't have a great year last year either. He fell off from the season before with obviously Dable. And Dable, knowing that Gabe Davis is going to be a free agent after this season, that could be a player that the Giants look at when he becomes a free agent. Now, if Diggs doesn't want to be there, and Gabe Davis is a free agent next year, do the Buffalo Bills extend him? Do they give him a contract if they know that their star wide receiver, who's 32 years old, could be on his way out? And they might have to trade because they're going to have to pay him $27.5 million next season.